From being so scared that it's apparent to the world during a press conference to losing so hard that retirement is the only option left, there have been tons of UFC fighters that have been afraid of their opponents. Starting with the iconic Megan Anderson versus Amanda Nuñez match at UFC 259. Anderson had the chance to fight for the coveted UFC Featherweight Championship. Her opponent was Amanda Nuñez, who's widely considered the greatest female fighter in the sport's history. It was a dream come true for Anderson, who'd worked tirelessly to reach this moment in her career. However, the prospect of facing Nuñez, who had defeated every opponent she had faced in the UFC with relative ease, was daunting. Despite Anderson's attempt to exude confidence during the press conference, it was apparent from the look on her face that she was feeling the pressure of the occasion. Walking into the octagon to face Nuñez, Anderson looked nervous and apprehensive. The weight of the moment was clear as she stood opposite her fearsome opponent who was ready to defend her title. Once the fight began, it was immediately apparent that Anderson was struggling to keep up with Nuñez's pace and power. In a matter of seconds, Amanda landed a significant strike that left Megan on wobbly legs, unable to defend herself. A flurry of punches followed and Anderson was quickly dropped before Nuñez finished the fight with a submission hold. The entire bout lasted just 2 minutes, which was a disappointing result for Megan, who had been looking forward to this fight for months. After the fight, Anderson was released from the UFC. It was a tough pill to swallow for the Australian fighter who had worked hard to get to that point in her career. Still, she can hold her head up high. She had the courage to step into the octagon against a fighter who's considered by many to be the greatest of all time. And the same can also be said for this next UFC fighter. It's Chris Cariaso, who went against Demetrius Johnson. Some may dismiss the idea of being afraid of a fighter who weighs only 125 pounds and goes by the nickname Mighty Mouse, but there's no denying UFC flyweight champion Demetrius Johnson was a fierce competitor inside the octagon. Johnson had an impressive UFC title run. He finished off strong contenders like Joe Benavidez and Kyoji Horiguchi, and even Triple C Henry Cejudo. At UFC 178 in September 2014, Johnson faced off against a seemingly unlikely title challenger in Chris Cariaso. With a 17-5 record and based in Arizona, Cariaso wasn't considered a serious threat to the reigning champion. As he made his way to the octagon, Cariaso looked visibly scared and intimidated by the occasion. To his credit, he managed to survive the first round, but it was clear that Johnson was in control of the fight. In the second round, Johnson quickly took advantage of Cariaso's lack of experience. He submitted him just 2 minutes and 30 seconds into the round, cementing his place as one of the greatest flyweight champions in UFC history. Despite Cariaso's nerves and lack of success in the fight, you have to give him credit for stepping up and taking on the daunting task of facing one of the most dominant champions in the sport's history. Johnson's opponents may have been scared of his skills inside the octagon, but his achievements and the impressive record will forever be remembered as a testament to his abilities as a fighter. Just like Alistair Overeem, who managed to scare away Brock Lesnar. Brock, the former UFC heavyweight champion and WWE star, is famously known as the Beast Incarnate in the wrestling world. But during his fight against MMA legend Alistair Overeem at UFC 141 in 2011, Lesnar looked more like a timid lamb than a fierce competitor. The main event bout was Overeem's UFC debut, while Lesnar was returning to the octagon after a battle with diverticulitis. Despite his usual intimidating presence, he appeared quite meek during the face-off and fighter instructions. As soon as the fight began, Overeem took control with his presence and powerful knees to Lesnar's body. He ultimately finished the fight with a kick to the liver and subsequent punches, just 2 minutes and 26 seconds into the first round. Overeem's nickname, the Demolition Man, proved to be fitting as he handed Lesnar his first MMA retirement. Despite the outcome, Lesnar's reputation as a fierce competitor remained intact. His time in the UFC will always be remembered as one of the most exciting periods in the sport's history. Overeem's victory over the WWE star cemented his status as one of the greatest heavyweights in MMA history. His skills inside the octagon continue to be admired and celebrated by fight fans around the world. And it wouldn't be a list of fighters who were downright scared without mentioning this next fight. Yep, it's Ryan Bader versus Anthony Johnson. It's no surprise that when top UFC light heavyweight contender Ryan Bader faced off against Rumble, he appeared to be intimidated. The two UFC veterans squared off in the main event of UFC on Fox 18 on January 30th, 2016. 2016. The winner of the bout would receive a light heavyweight title shot. Bader was on a 5-fight win streak coming into the fight, but it was immediately apparent that he was concerned about Johnson's immense power. He tried to take Johnson down, but was quickly overpowered and found himself on his back. From there, Johnson landed a series of thunderous punches, ultimately finishing the fight in less than 90 seconds. The victory propelled Johnson to a title shot against then light heavyweight champion Daniel Cormier. Although Johnson was unsuccessful in capturing the title, his knockout power and dominant performances were still outclassing. Oh, and of course, there's just one fighter that manages to instill fear in everybody, and it's Francis Ngannou.
Shot with the right hand! Does Blade's recovery still one behind his feet? McGregor's taking a closer look. Ngannou's powering in. Oh, this is bad news!
That's it! Francis Ngannou!
His reputation as the most terrifying fighter in MMA has been solidified by his impressive record in the UFC. Francis's 10 knockout victories in the promotion have been nothing short of devastating, as he has dispatched former champions with relative ease. Even legends of the sport, such as Alistair Overeem, have fallen victim to Ngannou's striking ability. In their clash at UFC 218, Ngannou landed a monstrous left hook that sent Overeem tumbling to the canvas in a brutal knockout. It's no wonder that opponents have looked visibly shaken when facing Ngannou. With his exceptional power and precision striking, he has the ability to end fights in the blink of an eye.
Harris, as they bring in guys. Oh! Ngannou knocks Arlovsky down. That is it. The Predator Francis Ngannou.
Despite John Jones's claims that he's not intimidated by Ngannou, many fans and experts are eagerly anticipating their eventual matchup. The fight has the potential to be a historic clash between two of the sport's greatest fighters. Finally, there's one other fight where a fighter was shaking in their boots at the sight of their opponent. Yep, it's Conor McGregor versus Nate Diaz. In his rematch against Nate at UFC 202, Conor, known for his confidence and bravado, admitted to being hesitant. He was scared of Diaz's striking power, and hey, I don't blame him. McGregor had lost their first fight and was determined to come back stronger in the rematch. But let me just say, Diaz's size advantage and strong chin made McGregor wary of engaging in exchanges. During a pre-fight interview, McGregor spoke candidly about his fear, stating, "I'm afraid of his range, his length." Despite his fear, McGregor went on to win the fight via a close decision after a grueling 5-round battle. His admission of fear showed his vulnerability and humanized him in the eyes of many fans. It also highlighted the importance of mental toughness in combat sports, and the need to overcome one's fears to achieve success in the octagon. Those are all the times a UFC fighter was very afraid of their opponent.